Listen to what Thierry Henry says.
Then when we knew that Mbappe was going there, how is he going to balance that team?
He saw this coming. People thought Kylian Mbappé would arrive at Real Madrid and dominate, but it has been the complete opposite.
Frankly, the Real Madrid players will just want to get on the plane and go home, but the rituals have to be observed.
It can be Kylian, it can be Mbappe. Mbappe comes into Real Madrid and we all thought, and I think rightfully so, we thought this is going to elevate Real Madrid because he would be able to check this ego at the door given the fact that Real Madrid were successful without him. They didn't need him. And what he has come in, whether he intended it to be the case or not, he has wrecked this team.
Too many stars, too many egos. Real Madrid is slowly collapsing in a way that feels uncontrollable.
I think it's less to do with the tactics and more to do with what you guys talk about, the player power. This Real Madrid group right now is unmanageable, in my opinion.
People thought it was just the words of a washed-up pundit.
But it was like in the final third, they lacked the clarity and they lacked the capacity to make the right decisions. Almost like they weren't aware of the magnitude of this game. They've given up any chance of winning the league title.
But now it sounds like a prophecy.
Is that a player problem that they didn't like his playing style? You mentioned that the players kind of rule things there
100%
a bit, and Florentino Perez gives them that power, the president of the club. But maybe that's the larger issue.
No Mbappé, there's party.
Nacho raises the Champions League trophy in the air.
With Mbappé, there's a dictator.
The whole world belongs to me.
Real Madrid showed signs of revival without him. The fluidity and freedom in their play came back. But the moment he returned, everything started to fall apart again.
And you look and see, win against Celta, no Mbappe. Win against City, no Mbappe. Win against Elche, no Mbappe. Win against City away, no Mbappe. Win against Atletico Madrid, no Mbappe in the starting 11. Mbappe comes back. Mallorca 2, Real Madrid 1.
39 goals. 6 assists, directly involved in 55% of Real Madrid's goals in La Liga this season. A level of burden never even seen at the peak of Cristiano Ronaldo.
Here's Vinicius, back to Mbappe, who lines up the shot. Mbappe! It is another absolute screamer at the Bernabeu this afternoon.
And yet, it all means nothing if Real Madrid cannot win anything.
It's a difficult one because he's still scoring the goals, he's still doing good things. It's just they haven't won anything this season.
So let me ask you this. Is Mbappe the problem? Or is everything around him being distorted to serve him?
Has Mbappe ever been a team player? So he's never been part of a team. And if there's one thing footballers need when they're not at their best and they're going through a tough time, is the teammates. But if you make yourself completely separate from everybody else, it does affect the way everybody else around you plays for you, looks at you, and holds you to a different standard.
I think sometimes in the life I'm too competitive, It's good to be competitive.
When Kylian Mbappé is not playing, Real Madrid don't just look smoother, they win convincingly.
Real Madrid, opportunity for the break, and he's around Donnarumma, and scores! And Real Madrid from the breakaway, check the lead.
Vinicius will take the shot on! And he will find the back of the net with a beautiful strike.
They rediscover their rhythm in La Liga and even defeat Manchester City in the Champions League. These are controlled performances where the ball moves quickly, chances are created from multiple angles, and the team functions as a unified structure. Vinicius Jr. finds his scoring touch again. Federico Valverde thrives.
What really impressed me tonight was the chemistry they had. They were feisty, they were running for each other, they were fighting for each other. I mean, Vinicius Jr. was all over the place, defending, helping out. They were unpredictable, and it takes those nights in the Champions League, those special games, to pull that stuff out of very special players.
Everything comes together into a balanced system that echoes the Real Madrid of previous eras. But the moment Mbappé returns, everything starts to collapse again.
Real Madrid suffered today to lose 2-1. Are absolutely embarrassing. And Mbappe just turns into this player that looks like he doesn't know how to play the 9. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what runs to make. He doesn't know anything. He literally forgets how to play football when he plays for Real Madrid.
The tempo drops, attacking sequences begin to funnel in one direction, and the system becomes predictable. The result is no longer controlled wins, but struggling performances that often end in defeat. Mbappé still scores, still produces those explosive runs, but the key issue remains. Real Madrid are playing worse.
Have a player like Mbappé, that is true, that is an amazing player, an amazing number 9, but I expect much more about him, not just scoring goals, because you are seeing that in 2 seasons is not enough to win titles. And
yes, he is still shining in his own way. But look back at the past, he still scored over 40 goals in a season for PSG and dominate the League One, but couldn't win the Champions League. Yet, the moment he left, they started winning everything.
It didn't never work for Paris Saint-Germain for years. And it worked this season because Kylian wasn't there and everybody was spot on to do the job. And that's the difference. And
they are no longer dependent on a single individual. Instead, they function as a synchronized collective with coordinated movement, effective pressing, and consistent intensity throughout the game. And even Luis Enrique has spoken about this, suggesting that PSG actually perform better without Mbappé.
Creo que fui muy valiente la temporada pasada cuando os dije que pensaba que íbamos a tener mejor equipo en ataque y en defensa. Yo sigo pensando que somos mejores en ataque y en defensa y los números están ahí. Nos hubiera encantado tener a Kylian y los jugadores seguro, por lo que le tenían a Kiki, pero creo que el equipo está respondiendo a un nivel espectacular. Os dije que me encantaría que hubiera, en vez de un jugador que marque 40 goles, 4 que marcaran 12 cada uno. Ya hay que han superado con creces esos números y invitamos a los demás, y ese es nuestro objetivo como equipo, mejorar.
I know you might believe Real Madrid have deeper issues behind this chaos. But we have to face the reality that despite Kylian Mbappe's incredible numbers, they are reflecting the exact opposite. Real Madrid are regressing with him in the team. Mbappé is now like the king of stats, but the ghost of trophies.
I was going to be nice, but I'm not going to be nice. It's trophyless for me. It's trophyless. I don't see this team being able to turn it around.
Mbappé has always been a different level compared to the rest of his generation. Before arriving in Madrid, he never had to prove who he was.
Thuram! Mbappé! Awesome force of nature! Brutal and brilliant!
Oh, brilliant skills from Mbappe. It's 3-0. Sensational from Kylian Mbappe.
He was already one of the best players in the world. A player capable of deciding games with pace, finishing, and explosive individual moments. At Paris Saint-Germain and on the international stage, he was used to being the centre of everything, used to having the entire system revolve around him. That is why when he arrived at Madrid, the expectation was never about whether he could perform. It was about how completely he would dominate.
Me voy a hacer 1, 2, 3 y vamos a decir juntos a la Madrid, como una gran familia. 1, 2, 3, a la Madrid!
If Mbappe lands Madrid, Barcelona doesn't have to get ready. The world has to get ready.
But reality did not begin that way. When Kylian Mbappé put on the shirt of Real Madrid, there was no fairy tale start. The early games showed a very different version. Disconnected touches, movements out of sync with his teammates, and at times he almost disappeared from the system.
Could be a chance for Real Madrid to get back into the game. It's Kylian Mbappé, and Camara makes the save. It's Luis Perez. Cross comes in Mbappé.
The pressure arrived quickly. The media began dissecting every small detail in his game, while the fans started losing patience with a star who had yet to make a clear impact. At Real Madrid, the window to adapt barely exists. Everything is pushed to the extreme.
If you're Mbappe, you're embarrassed because, well, basically they're saying I'm not playing well. That's embarrassing for Mbappe. If you're supposed to be the superstar.
But things were starting to click after a few matches. Goals began to come.
Kept alive now by Bellingham. It's Mbappé coming on and scoring! Kylian Mbappé!
First in isolated moments, then in consistent scoring runs. From single strikes to braces, hat tricks, and eventually decisive performances in the Champions League.
La pelota de tren Alexander-Arnold con el primer control. Consigue romper a Íñigo Leque. Arranca la conducción. Nadie le puede parar. Nadie le frena. El último recorte.
Adaptation was no longer the issue. Kylian Mbappé overcame it through sheer individual quality. From doubt, Kylian Mbappé quickly rose into a state of dominance. Around 40 goals in his first season, nearly 14 in the Champions League, and a central role in every major attacking situation. A near instant transformation. From a question mark into the answer.
Ballon d'Or winner next year. You never write off this man. I mean, he's just so good. He looks electric. Seems to be playing with a different sort of confidence at the moment. I know he scored a lot of goals last season, but he's actually playing well and scoring goals this season.
Mbappé did not create his resurgence by integrating into the system. He did it by taking over games on his own, through decisive individual actions. And when one player becomes the solution to every problem, that is when the team starts depending on how he solves them. From the very beginning, Thierry Henry raised a clear question. When Mbappé joins Real Madrid, how will this team find balance? And the answer is now unfolding in real time. It is shaping the way the club operates. Henry also pointed out another concern, Mbappe's laziness of work rate in the number 9 role.
Who's going to make the run in behind? Who's going to try to go? It's him. It's Bellingham going, not your number 9. Again, who's making the box? Him again. And I think there is a little frustration, and this one for me is actually, look at him. Look at your 9. Look at on the other side. Same. Your 9 is not going. Your 10-ish is going. And I know it can happen sometimes, but not all the time.
But the issue here is not theoretical. It lies in how Kylian Mbappé operates on the pitch. He's not a player who drops deep into build-up, does not consistently hold central positions to act as a link, and does not contribute enough in pressing to maintain cohesion with the rest of the team.
When I see a player standing still, or maybe slow walking, when your team is trailing 3-1 and there's an opportunity to attack the 18-yard box, and that is your job as a striker to go and score goals, and yet you're just standing still, not moving, not participating, the game is just going on around you, that's troubling.
Mbappé remains the biggest threat on the pitch, but that does not make Real Madrid function smoothly. Instead, it turns him into a solution used when the system starts to break down. And when one player becomes the escape option for the entire system, the next step is almost inevitable. The system begins to change to serve him.
He's going to showcase what he can do because he doesn't want to be 5th on this feature. No, he wants to be in the top 5, he wants to be in the top 2 because he wants to be considered up there in terms of one of the best strikers within this squad and someone that is reliable because you just said it. What's the best ability? Availability. Right. And if he's available and he's scoring, he can do it. The problem is when you have someone who's at the top that's so good and so heavily reliant, it's almost impossible to look away from him.
At Real Madrid, that shift did not happen overnight. It happened gradually. The ball started to find Mbappé more often, and attacking patterns were increasingly designed to place him in decisive positions. Over time, it stopped being a choice. It became the team's instinct. The imbalance becomes clear when placing Kylian Mbappé alongside Vinicius Jr. Both naturally drift toward the left flank, searching for the same spaces to maximise their strengths. This does not create complementarity, it creates overlap. Two of the best players in the world, yet constantly occupying the same zone. It feels more like a glitch than a calculated tactical structure.
Still think there's big questions as to whether or not Vinny and Mbappe can play together.
They both want to shift, like you mentioned, they both want to shift to that left side. That hasn't worked. It didn't work last season for them to win multiple trophies.
Behind them, Jude Bellingham becomes the one force to adjust the most. He drops deeper, moves wider, and constantly shifts roles to maintain balance. But when a player has to repeatedly leave his natural position, it is usually a sign that the system is being bent to compensate.
You saw Bellingham coming off, and he's feeling it. Yeah. No goals. No goals. This guy, I can't remember, but this time last year, he probably had, I don't know, 8 or 10. That shows you that shows you the difference. And it's, okay, he might not be playing as well. And Real Madrid clearly are not playing as well as a team.
None of them are playing incorrectly. Mbappé is still doing what he does best. Vinicius remains true to his style. Bellingham keeps trying to connect everything. But when all of them exist within a distorted structure, the question is no longer who is right or wrong. It becomes what happens when pressure rises and that system is pushed into decisive moments. And once the system is stretched to a certain point, the outcome becomes inevitable. Shut down one key link and the entire structure stalls. When Mbappé is contained, Real Madrid almost lose their final edge. The attacks still happen, but they lack the final touch, the decisive spark needed to turn them into clear chances. What stands out is that this is not about a lack of quality. The pitch is still filled with top players, names capable of making the difference. The issue lies in the habit that has been formed. Get the ball to Kylian Mbappé and let him handle the rest. For a period, it worked. It even worked extremely well. But once opponents began to adapt, once they organised to lock down his space, that approach started to lose its edge. And when the familiar solution stops working, the real problem is exposed. There is no alternative. No secondary structure, no clear attacking route capable of creating the same impact. The system does not collapse because of a lack of quality. It stalls because it has grown used to operating in only one direction. And when that direction is blocked, everything stops with it. At this point, the issue is no longer about tactics or structure. It becomes something much simpler. Mbappé is not doing anything wrong. In fact, he is doing everything too well. He receives, creates, scores, and constantly solves situations that would normally require an entire team. But that is exactly what creates the paradox. When one player keeps becoming the answer to every problem, the rest of the team gradually loses the habit of solving them together. Collective combinations fade. Variety disappears. Everything starts to narrow around one individual. In the short term, it brings results, but in the long term, it reshapes how the entire team thinks and operates on the pitch. It is the price a team pays when it becomes too dependent on individual brilliance. To understand the issue more clearly, just look at how other elite forwards operate within their systems. You don't even have to look far. Take Karim Benzema, Mbappe's predecessor at Real Madrid. With Benzema, the value was never just about goals. He constantly dropped deep, linked midfield with attack, created passing triangles, and allowed the entire system to function smoothly. He was not just the final point. He was the connector that made everything work. Meanwhile, the player most often compared directly with Mbappé, Erling Haaland, represents a completely different model. He doesn't need many touches or deep involvement in build-up, but he is always in the right place at the decisive moment. He doesn't change the system, he optimises it. Kylian Mbappé is different. He does not focus on connecting play like Karim Benzema, nor does he simply optimise a role like Erling Haaland. Instead, he optimises moments. Receive the ball, create disruption, and solve the situation on his own terms. That difference creates a fundamental gap. Benzema makes the system function, Haaland perfects the system, Mbappé often operates outside of it. And when a player constantly breaks the script to create moments, the question is no longer how good he is. It becomes how much of its structure the system around him can still maintain. In the end, the issue is not whether Mbappé is good enough. It is how his brilliance has quietly reshaped the way Real Madrid operates. They still have elite players, they still have the quality to win, but they are gradually losing the habit of solving problems together as a collective. Kylian Mbappé does not make Real Madrid weaker in the conventional sense, but when he becomes the solution to too many situations, the team gradually stops searching for other answers. And at the highest level of football, that is a very dangerous trade-off. He has proven that he can decide games on his own. But football was never designed for one player to do that forever. And the final question remains, how far can a team really go when it depends on that for too long? If you enjoy our video, don't forget to hit like to help this video reach to other football lovers, and hit the subscribe button to follow for more interesting videos about football stories. See you in the next video.